Hi, my name is Pat Dennis and today we're making cream caramel, one of our desserts. We have our ingredients here. I have in front of me the sugar. I have 300 grams of sugar, 150 mils of water for my caramel. I have my milk here, my eggs and egg yolks separated, and also my sugar and vanilla for my egg custard. I have a dish with my ramekins inside, and the first step for us is going to be to do this, to make a caramel, adjust it and deposit it into our ramekins and pop them in the freezer. First thing we need to do is we're going to put our water over our sugar, and just make sure, if I have a look here, just make sure we dissolve all the sugar in. If there's any impurities such as this little black piece here, they need to come out. And just get that nice and clear, but don't get it too far up the sides of the pot. Make it nice and neat and clean. We're going to light our stove and just turn it down to a moderate heat. We want to make sure that these flames heat the bottom of the pan, and we cook this as quickly as possible, but we don't want any flames up the side or they'll cause the pot to burn. I've got a brush here with some cold clean water. We're going to brush down the sides of the pan and let that come to the boil and reach a nice golden caramel colour. That'll take approximately 10 to 12 minutes to achieve. So I have my caramel here, which has been cooking away, and it's important that we keep an eye on the colour of it. Take it just before the colour that you want and leave it to one side, because the temperature will continue to rise and it will colour a little bit more. Using a cloth, turn off your gas and remove it from the heat. And if we bring it over onto our bench, just be careful where you place it on the bench, because it will be hot underneath, so don't place it too close to where you're working. We can see here from the colour that we're after, a nice golden amber colour here. Now, we don't pour this straight into our moulds. What we need is a little bit of hot water, and we're going to ladle some water into our caramel to adjust the consistency. So, we take our hot water. We're going to take just under 100 mils. Now, keep this away from you as you stir it, and what you'll see is it will bubble back up and it will change the consistency of the caramel. Give that a stir, just so it's nice and even. You want to make sure that you get your water all the way through, and then we're going to pop that into a measuring jug and just let that settle for a minute. And then we're just going to fill the base of the mould, like so. Just a little bit in the bottom. Now, the reason we add the extra water is because it softens the caramel slightly and therefore assists in it breaking down. Any remaining caramel that we have will go back into the pot, and I'll add more hot water and make a clear caramel sauce. So the remaining caramel can go back in. I'm going to add a little bit more hot water to that. I'm going to mix that together to get a nice sauce-like consistency to put around the plate later on. Make sure you get everything up from the bottom, but it's so that'll be a nice runny consistency to serve with our caramel. When that cools down, that will thicken slightly. You have to remember that it is actually cooked sugar, and so cooked sugar, when it's this hot, it's still around 90 degrees, it will be quite runny, and when it cools to room temperature, it will be firmer. But that's a nice colour that we're going to get there. We'll just set that aside. What's important is we now need to actually fill these with the custard. But this has to set, so you can see at the moment that it is still running. Into our dish, straight into the freezer, 10 or 15 minutes, just until it's dry to touch. While our caramel inside our containers is in the freezer, we're going to make up our custard mixture. So, our vanilla and sugar is here, our milk is in the pot, and we're going to add them. We're going to pop them on the stove, give them a stir first, just to incorporate all of our ingredients, like so. That can come out. Onto the stove, same as before, a moderate heat, and we're just going to warm up this milk and sugar and vanilla. What's important is that we don't cook the eggs before it goes into the oven. But a hotter mixture will of course bake quicker than a colder mixture. Our egg and egg yolk is here, and we're just going to quickly give them a whisk, just to break them down so they're easier to incorporate into our custard mixture in a moment. Our milk, sugar and vanilla is just starting to simmer, so we'll turn off our gas, bring it back over here, and we need our eggs and egg yolks. And the first thing that we do is we add a little bit of liquid to our egg and egg yolk. This is called tempering, and we do this to adjust the consistency of the egg and egg yolk, and also to bring up the temperature slightly, and it stops the incidence of it scrambling. Then the rest can go in, and just get it nice and smooth. Try not to put too much foam on the top by aerating it with your whisk, but you do need to get a nice smooth mixture. Now, there's always the chance there'll be a little bit of egg in there that coagulates. So we use a strainer and a jug, and we're just going to pass it through the strainer and into the jug and take out any rubbish. We don't want any foam on our cream caramel mixture, so just take a second to skim the foam off. You can use that later on because those air bubbles will break down, but for this purpose we're going to use this straight away. So we'll just take off as much of the foam as we can, so it's reasonably smooth on top, like so. Now what we've also been waiting for is that the caramel, see how I can touch it? It leaves a little indent, but see how it doesn't run anymore like it used to? That now means when I pour the custard on top, we get clean layers, and that's how we're going to get our caramel top on our cream caramel. Now the great thing about these ramekins is they actually have a little indicator mark, a little lip on them that tells me just how far I should fill it, so they're all nice and even. And then away we go. Just a nice steady hand. Just take it to just below the top surface, like so. We'll very quickly fill all 8 of these. It's ideal if you work with this mixture when it's still quite hot, because then it will cook quicker in the oven. Working with a cold mixture means longer baking time, and this will also be true when we go to put our water bath inside. If we use a cold water bath, you have to expect that it will take much longer for your cream caramels to bake. Hot water and a hot mixture will mean a lot quicker. We're just going to steal from each one of these, just to top this one up. A little bit more, maybe 4. That'll do. They then go back into this dish. It is of course easier if you fill them inside the dish, but if I did that then you wouldn't see much, and that would be not very interesting. But just keep that in mind when you do this for yourself. Space them out evenly so that they bake evenly. Then, while we keep it here, what we're going to do is with some nice hot water, we're going to half fill the dish, being careful to leave a gap down the side here so your water can run in, because you don't want your cream caramels packed in too tightly, because you don't want to get water inside the mixture. They won't set. The idea of the water here is it creates a nice moist environment so the cream caramels don't skim over, and also it evens out the heat. So we get a nice ambient temperature, so they bake nicely without scrambling or getting any aeration, any bubbles. What I need now is my aluminium foil. So we want to keep the steam inside, and we want to keep the heat nice and even. So we take a sheet of aluminium foil, just going to cover it over, just like so. We're going to keep one corner open. It allows any excess condensation to escape while keeping a nice, moist, warm environment, but stops any water from dropping back into the mixture. And you just need a little gap there, and that's it. That's now ready to go straight into the oven.